Have you ever looked at religious artwork depicting the crucifixion and felt something was missing? Beyond the blood, beyond the crown of thorns, beyond the physical suffering that has been portrayed for centuries. What if there was a profound spiritual mystery that has been deliberately hidden from humanity? For 2,000 years, we've been conditioned to see the crucifixion through a single lens, that of physical torture and bloody sacrifice. The paintings that hang in cathedrals, the sculptures that adorn church walls, the sermons delivered from pulpits, they all emphasize one narrative. Jesus suffered in the flesh to pay for our sins. But what if this interpretation is merely skimming the surface of what truly happened on that fateful day? Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the sleeping prophet, accessed extraordinary insights during his trance states that challenge everything we thought we knew about history's most significant spiritual event. Through his remarkable psychic readings, Cayce unveiled a version of the crucifixion that transcends the physical realm and reveals a cosmic process of transformation that has been obscured for millennia. Has this ever happened to you? You're sitting in a religious service, hearing the familiar story of Christ's sacrifice, and something deep within you whispers that there must be more to this narrative. Something beyond guilt, beyond the shedding of blood, beyond the idea that a loving Creator would demand suffering. As payment, according to Cayce's revelations, what appeared to human eyes as torture was actually a monumental energetic event. Jesus wasn't primarily experiencing physical agony. He was conducting a vibrational transmutation of cosmic proportions. Through his energy field, he was processing thousands of years of human density, patterns of fear, separation, and illusion that had kept humanity trapped in lower cycles of consciousness. Stay with me until the end of this video series, because what you're about to discover might completely transform your understanding of spirituality, consciousness, and your own divine potential. The crucifixion wasn't about death. It was about transcendence. It wasn't about punishment. It was about liberation. It wasn't about paying a debt. It was about revealing the truth of who we really are. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What I'm about to share with you is the first of 3 profound lies that have distorted our understanding of the crucifixion for centuries. Imagine looking at a diamond only through a microscope that shows its carbon structure, never experiencing how it refracts light into a spectrum of colors. That's what traditional teachings have done, focused on the physical suffering while missing the spiritual transmutation that was truly taking place. Think about this for a moment. When a diamond is cut under extreme pressure, each facet is polished to reflect light in its purest form possible. This is the perfect metaphor for what was truly happening during the crucifixion. Jesus' physical body wasn't being destroyed, it was being elevated, transformed into a conductor of frequencies so high that dense matter could no longer contain them. This spiritual alchemy represents the hidden truth behind what our eyes perceive as suffering. The journey of consciousness has always been misinterpreted by those who view reality only through material eyes. What appears as destruction on the physical level is often a profound transformation on the energetic plane. This mindset shift is crucial to understanding the revelations that Edgar Cayce accessed from the Akashic records. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by addressing one of the most profound misconceptions that has shaped religious thought for millennia. Cayce emphasizes that the idea of a God demanding blood sacrifice to pay for sin debts is a limited human interpretation, one that transformed an act of pure, unconditional love into a spiritual commercial transaction. Think about the impact this has had on our collective psychology. We've been taught that the ultimate expression of divine love is tied to suffering, that salvation comes through pain, that redemption requires bloodshed. But does this align with the concept of an all-loving creator? The hidden truth is far more liberating. Jesus didn't surrender to death. He surrendered to the highest frequency of universal love, the one that dissolves all illusions of separation between the human and the divine. Every drop of blood that appeared to be spilled carried codes of light. Every labored breath was a mantra of liberation. Every moment of apparent agony was actually a victory over the density that keeps consciousness imprisoned. This revelation leads us directly to the second great lie that has distorted our understanding for centuries: the cross as an instrument of death. Look around at any Christian church, and what do you see as the central symbol? The cross, an emblem that has become inextricably linked with guilt, suffering, and divine punishment. Millions wear this symbol around their necks as a constant reminder of a bloody sacrifice. But was this truly the original meaning of this powerful symbol? The cross, long before it was used as an instrument of execution by the Romans, was already a sacred symbol present in various ancient spiritual traditions. It represented the meeting point between heaven and earth, between spirit and matter, between the divine and the human. It was the symbol of ascension, of integration, of the union of opposites in perfect harmony. The Romans, in their calculated cruelty, chose this method of execution precisely because it was the most humiliating and painful possible. They wanted to make crucifixion a terrifying example of punishment, but what they couldn't have imagined was that Christ would transform this instrument of torture into a vibrational key of cosmic proportions. As you reflect on these revelations, consider how they might be inviting you to see beyond the veil of conventional understanding. Write in the comments, "I'm seeing beyond the veil," if something about this perspective resonates with your own spiritual intuition. Jesus was not passive before the cross. He consciously transformed it into a portal of transmutation. Every piece of wood in that structure was imbued with frequencies of light so powerful that they reverberated through all dimensions of existence. What should have been merely a means of killing became an amplifier of eternal life. If you resonated with these spiritual insights about the crucifixion, hit that subscribe button to join our community of truth seekers. We're uncovering ancient wisdom that transforms how we understand our divine potential. The true power of symbols lies in their ability to communicate across dimensions beyond what mere words can express. This esoteric understanding reveals that the cross wasn't originally designed as a tool of torture. It was hijacked for that purpose. In many ancient wisdom traditions spanning from Egypt to India, from Celtic Europe to pre-Columbian America, the cross represented something profound, the sacred intersection where worlds meet. This revelation transforms our entire perspective on what was unfolding during those momentous hours at Golgotha. What the world witnessed as an execution was actually an initiation of cosmic proportions. The Romans thought they were displaying their dominance, but they inadvertently provided the perfect stage for the most powerful energetic transmission in human history. When we look deeper at the geometric blueprint of the cross itself, we discover layers of meaning that have been obscured by centuries of misinterpretation. The vertical line stretches from earth to sky, representing our soul's journey of ascending consciousness, our connection to higher realms, and the divine spark within each of us. It embodies the path of transcendence, the reaching toward our highest potential. The horizontal line extends outward, symbolizing our human experience through time and space, our journey through the material world, our relationships with others, and our engagement with physical reality. It represents the here and now, the present moment of our embodied existence. At the point where these two lines intersect, this is where the magic happens. This intersection creates a 0 point, a quantum field where sacred alchemy occurs. It's where the human encounters the divine, where matter merges with spirit, where the finite touches the infinite. This crossroads is not a place of ending, but a nexus of transformation. Jesus understood this ancient wisdom at the deepest level. He wasn't a victim of circumstance being passively led to slaughter. He was a master alchemist, consciously utilizing the cross as a multidimensional tool. Every moment of his presence on that structure was imbuing it with frequencies of light so powerful that they created a permanent shift in Earth's vibrational field. Consider the profound mindset shift this represents. Rather than seeing the crucifixion as something done to Jesus, we can recognize it as something done through him, a deliberate act of cosmic engineering. Through his conscious presence, he was encoding this symbol with a new frequency, imprinting on humanity's collective consciousness a vibrational map for how to transcend material density. This is the hidden truth that transformational leaders throughout history have glimpsed, that what appears as our greatest challenge often becomes the very portal through which our highest expression emerges. The cross ceased to be dead wood and became a living tree of knowledge, branching between dimensions. If you felt a resonance with these ancient understandings of sacred geometry and vibrational transformation, type "Sacred Geometry Speaks to Me" in the comments below. Now, let's explore what was truly happening within the tomb, the place where conventional narratives tell us Jesus' body was buried, but where Cayce's readings reveal something far more extraordinary was taking place. One of the most remarkable aspects of these spiritual revelations is how they connect ancient wisdom with quantum understanding. When we look at the legacy of the crucifixion through this lens, we see that Jesus wasn't simply enduring a painful death. He was conducting a masterclass in consciousness engineering. Through his deliberate actions, he was planting what Edgar Cayce calls a seed of light within the Earth's energy grid, a vibrational imprint that would continue to resonate through the collective consciousness of humanity for millennia. This perspective transforms our relationship with spirituality itself. Rather than being passive recipients of salvation bestowed from above, we become active participants in an ongoing cosmic unveiling. The breakthrough realization is that the cross wasn't just a historical event that happened 2,000 years ago. It's a living template, a multi-dimensional blueprint that continues to operate as a transformational technology in our lives today. Every time someone gazes upon a cross with true understanding, they're activating this vibrational map within their own consciousness. The cross ceased to be dead wood and became a tree of eternal life, its branches extending through dimensions, its roots anchored in the fertile soil of universal truth. Through this conscious encoding, Jesus was ensuring that the pathway to higher consciousness would remain accessible to anyone willing to look beyond the veil of material reality. Now we arrive at the third great lie that has profoundly shaped our understanding of the crucifixion: the belief that Jesus' body was buried. This misunderstanding has spawned endless debates among scholars, theologians, and skeptics. Was the body stolen by disciples, hidden by authorities? Did a biological resurrection occur as traditional narratives claim? These questions have fragmented faith communities and created unnecessary division. The revelations Cayce accessed offer a perspective that transcends all these limited theories. According to his psychic readings, Jesus' physical body did not remain in the tomb because it ceased to exist in the form we understand. There was no theft, no natural decomposition, and no resurrection in the biological sense that our rational minds try to comprehend. What happened was far more extraordinary: a conscious dematerialization. This revelation aligns with the hidden wisdom traditions that understand the malleable nature of reality. Jesus fully mastered what we might today call spiritual quantum physics, the understanding that matter is merely condensed energy vibrating at a specific frequency. When consciousness reaches a certain threshold of awakening, it gains the ability to consciously control these vibrational states, transforming matter into pure energy and energy back into matter at will. During those hours in the tomb, a monumental process was unfolding beyond the perception of ordinary senses. Jesus' body, already purified and elevated, during the crucifixion was completing its final transmutation. Cell by cell, atom by atom, dense matter was being converted into pure light, into ultra-high-frequency luminous energy. It was like watching ice melt into water, but on an infinitely more subtle and sacred level. If you've ever experienced a moment where you felt your consciousness expanding beyond your physical form, where you sensed yourself as pure energy rather than just a body, type, "I am more than my physical form," in the comments. This understanding of conscious dematerialization offers a profound insight into what true mastery looks like. Not an escape from physical reality, but a complete integration of all dimensions of being. This understanding reaches far beyond religious dogma into the realm of advanced spiritual science. What Cayce's readings revealed is that Jesus was operating from a level of consciousness that fully understood the malleable nature of reality. He demonstrated what quantum physicists are only now beginning to verify, that solid matter is an illusion. At its core, physical reality is simply energy vibrating at different frequencies, creating the appearance of solidity. When we truly grasp this revelation, it revolutionizes our entire worldview. The miracle isn't that Jesus somehow cheated death, it's that he revealed death itself to be a human construct, an illusion created by limited perception. What we call death is merely a transition between states of being, a shift in vibrational frequency. Jesus didn't overcome death. He demonstrated that true death never existed in the first place. The journey that unfolded within that tomb represents the pinnacle of spiritual mastery. Imagine witnessing this extraordinary metamorphosis, a process where physical matter consciously transforms back into its original state of pure light. This wasn't a mystical escape or a spiritual trick. It was a scientific demonstration of reality's true nature, occurring at the quantum level where science and spirituality become indistinguishable. During those sacred hours, as his disciples mourned and his enemies celebrated what they thought was his defeat, Jesus was actually completing the most profound transformation possible. His physical body, already elevated through the crucifixion process, was finalizing its transmutation. Each cell, each molecule, each atom was consciously dissolving its material density and returning to its original state of luminous energy. Think about the profound implications of this understanding. The physical body is not who we are. It's merely a temporary vehicle, a garment the spirit dons to experience the material dimension. And when this garment is no longer needed, when consciousness reaches a sufficiently high level, it can be dissolved back into its original energetic essence. This is what true mastery looks like. The empty tomb, therefore, is not just a symbol of resurrection in the conventional sense. It is the ultimate symbol of liberation from material imprisonment. It is proof that death as we understand it is an illusion created by limited consciousness. The stone wasn't rolled away so Jesus could exit. It was moved so others could see that complete transformation had occurred. This revelation aligns perfectly with ancient wisdom teachings from various spiritual traditions that speak of enlightened beings who achieved the rainbow body, a state where physical form is completely transmuted into light. These teachings describe masters who, at the moment of their transition, left behind only hair and nails, the densest parts of the physical form, or sometimes nothing at all. Their bodies literally transformed into light. What if this level of mastery isn't just a distant possibility, but our evolutionary destiny? What if Jesus wasn't demonstrating something unique to him alone, but revealing the ultimate potential that exists within each of us? If something within you recognizes this truth on a soul level, type, "I recognize my light nature" in the comments below. When we understand this transmutation process, we begin to see that the crucifixion wasn't about suffering and death at all. It was about the triumph of consciousness over material limitation. Let's explore now how this understanding completely transforms traditional notions of heaven and what Jesus really meant when he spoke of the kingdom. The empty tomb stands as one of history's most powerful symbols, but its deeper meaning has been obscured through centuries of limited interpretation. What if it wasn't just evidence of a miraculous event, but a demonstration of our true relationship with physical reality? The revelation that emerges from Cayce's readings is that the empty tomb represents the ultimate liberation, not just for Jesus, but as a blueprint for all of humanity's spiritual potential. This breakthrough understanding completely transforms how we view our own journey. The empty tomb isn't just a historical curiosity or a theological debate point. It's a cosmic demonstration that what we call death is merely a transformation of vibratory states. It's the ultimate proof that the physical body is a temporary vehicle, not our true identity. When we shift our mindset to embrace this perspective, something profound happens in our consciousness. We begin to release the primal fear that has dominated human experience, the fear of cessation, of ending, of non-existence. This fear has been the hidden driver behind so many destructive patterns in our individual and collective psychology. But what if this fear is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of reality? I'd like to invite you to pause for a moment and deeply question everything you've been taught about the crucifixion, not from a place of skepticism, but from a space of openness to greater truth. What if the narratives that have shaped your understanding were incomplete? What if they reflected limited human interpretation rather than cosmic reality? This questioning leads us directly to perhaps the most deeply ingrained lie in humanity's collective psyche, the fourth great distortion that has shaped religious thought for millennia. For centuries, we have been conditioned to believe that we are inherently sinful, separated from God, and that only through Jesus' shed blood can we be redeemed and reconnected with the divine. This narrative has created entire generations living in guilt, fear, and spiritual dependence. It has fostered a psychology of unworthiness that permeates how we relate to ourselves, to each other, and to the divine. It has transformed powerful spiritual beings into supplicants, always seeking salvation from outside themselves, rather than awakening to the divinity within. But Cayce's readings completely dismantle this theological construct by revealing the true mission of Christ. Jesus did not come into the world to die for our sins. This interpretation reduces his extraordinary journey to a mere act of bloody atonement, as if the universe operated through bargaining and exchange. He came to live among us to show through his example what we are truly capable of becoming. The revelation that emerges is revolutionary. Humanity never needed bloodshed to be saved. What we needed was awakened consciousness, a remembrance of our true divine nature. We were asleep in a collective nightmare of separation, forgetting that we are direct children of the light, unique, and perfect expressions of universal consciousness. If you're feeling a resonance with this understanding, that your true nature is divine rather than sinful, type, "I am a child of light" in the comments. Jesus came not as a sacrificial lamb, but as a way shower, an ascended master who chose to incarnate in the density of earth to remind us of the path back to our original state of oneness. Every miracle he performed wasn't a supernatural anomaly, but a practical demonstration of what awakened consciousness can naturally manifest. When we look at the life of Jesus through this lens of awakened consciousness, everything transforms. His purpose wasn't to suffer and die as a payment. It was to demonstrate through lived example what each of us is capable of becoming. He wasn't the exception to humanity, but the blueprint for our potential. This shift in perception changes everything about how we understand spirituality. The journey of transformation isn't about reaching outside ourselves for salvation, but about awakening to what has always been within. Jesus repeatedly emphasized this truth in his teachings, that the kingdom of heaven is not some distant place we go after death, but a state of consciousness available here and now. The kingdom of heaven is within you, he taught. This wasn't poetic metaphor, but literal instruction. Subscribe now to continue this journey of spiritual awakening with us. Every video reveals another layer of the hidden truths that have been concealed for centuries but are now ready to be remembered. What Cayce's readings reveal is that humanity was never truly separated from the divine. This perceived separation was always an illusion, a temporary forgetting, an experience of exploring the denser dimensions of existence. We are, and always have been, divine sparks experiencing human life. Jesus didn't come to create a bridge between humanity and God. He came to remind us that no bridge was ever needed because there was never a true separation. This revelation is revolutionary because it shifts us from a mindset of spiritual dependency to one of spiritual sovereignty. We do not need intermediaries between us and the divine. We do not need elaborate rituals or institutional approval to connect with our sacred essence. All we need is to awaken to the Christ consciousness that already resides within each of us. Now let's examine what was really happening when Jesus performed what we call miracles. These demonstrations weren't supernatural anomalies or violations of natural law. They were revelations of what becomes naturally possible when consciousness operates from its true divine state. When Jesus healed the sick, he wasn't suspending the laws of nature. He was operating from a higher set of laws that transcend what we typically perceive as physical limitations. When he healed the blind, multiplied loaves, or calmed storms, he was showing that these capacities are inherent in awakened consciousness. He was demonstrating that health is the natural state of being aligned with its divine essence. Disease only exists when we're vibrating at a frequency disconnected from our true nature. The miraculous wasn't the exception. It was a glimpse of our natural state when fully awakened. This understanding transforms how we view our own spiritual journey. The path isn't about appeasing an external deity through suffering or sacrifice. It's about remembering who we truly are, awakening to our essential nature as expressions of divine consciousness. Every time we choose love over fear, forgiveness over resentment, unity over separation, we are walking the same path Jesus demonstrated. The insight process that unfolds through this revelation is profound. We begin to recognize that our current limitations are self-imposed through belief systems rather than cosmic reality. We are not sinful beings needing redemption. We are divine beings in the process of remembering our true nature. If this resonates with something you've intuitively known, but perhaps couldn't articulate, write in the comments, "This truth has always been within me." The narrative of blood sacrifice created an unhealthy spiritual dependency that has shaped religious thought for centuries. But what if this entire framework was based on a fundamental misunderstanding? Let's explore what Cayce's readings reveal about the true nature of heaven and what Jesus meant when he spoke of his Father's house. The profound truth that emerges from this spiritual revelation is that the entire priestly class system, the idea that we need special intermediaries to intercede with the divine on our behalf, was never part of the original teaching. Jesus consistently demonstrated direct communion with what he called Father, showing that this intimate connection is our birthright. The veil in the temple that reportedly tore at the moment of his transition wasn't just symbolic. It represented the dissolving of the illusion that God exists somewhere out there, separate from us, requiring special rituals or individuals to reach. This insight completely transforms our relationship with spirituality itself. When we recognize that we already have direct access to the divine through our own consciousness, we reclaim our spiritual sovereignty. The middlemen who positioned themselves as necessary channels, those who claimed special authority to interpret, to forgive, to bless, were never actually required. They emerged as power structures built upon the misunderstanding that we were somehow cut off from our divine source. The narrative of blood sacrifice didn't just create a theological framework. It engineered a psychological dependency that has influenced humanity for centuries. By teaching that we are inherently flawed, separated, and in need of external salvation, this perspective transformed spiritually powerful beings into what we might call spiritual beggars, always looking outside themselves for the salvation that already exists within their own being. Think about the profound psychological impact this has had on our collective consciousness. Rather than recognizing ourselves as expressions of the divine, having a human experience, we've been conditioned to see ourselves as sinful humans, hoping for divine intervention. This mindset shift from sovereignty to dependency has affected everything from our self-worth to our relationships to our sense of purpose in the cosmos. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining the fifth great lie that has shaped our understanding of the crucifixion, the belief that heaven was conquered on the cross. Christian tradition has built a powerful narrative around the idea that Jesus, through his death, opened the gates of heaven to humanity. This story has been told as if heaven were a physical place located somewhere beyond the clouds, and that before the crucifixion, it was locked to human beings. But Cayce's revelations invite us to question this fundamental assumption. What if heaven isn't a location at all? What if it isn't a place we go to after death, but a state of consciousness available to us right now? The breakthrough understanding that emerges is that heaven is not a geographic destination we achieve after death. It is a vibrational frequency, a dimension of existence that is separated from us not by physical distance, but by energetic density. Heaven is here and now, permeating every particle of the universe, accessible to any being who raises their consciousness to the corresponding frequency. This revelation aligns perfectly with Jesus' own words when he repeatedly said, "The kingdom of heaven is at hand," not distant in time or space, but immediately available to those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Heaven isn't somewhere else. It's a higher octave of the reality we're already experiencing. If you've ever had a moment of profound peace, clarity, or connection where time seemed to stand still and you felt one with everything, type, "I've glimpsed heaven within," in the comments. Jesus didn't ascend to a physical heaven located at some spatial coordinate in the cosmos. What the scriptures describe as his ascension was actually his conscious return to his original state of unified awareness. This revelation transforms our entire understanding of what Jesus meant when he spoke of heaven. According to Cayce's readings, the divine realm isn't somewhere up, there beyond the clouds. It's a vibrational reality that interpenetrates our own dimension. Heaven exists at a higher frequency, vibrating at a rate most people simply can't perceive because their consciousness is attuned to denser realities. It's like how a dog whistle produces sound waves humans can't hear, not because the sound doesn't exist, but because our sensory apparatus isn't calibrated to detect it. The journey of spiritual awakening, then, becomes about attunement rather than achievement. It's about calibrating our consciousness to perceive and participate in these higher frequencies that have always been present. This understanding aligns perfectly with quantum field theory, which recognizes that multiple realities can occupy the same space simultaneously, differentiated only by their vibrational signatures. What the scriptures describe as Jesus' ascension takes on an entirely different meaning through this lens of consciousness. He didn't physically float up into the sky to some distant celestial location. What witnesses perceived as an ascension was actually his conscious return to his original dimension of pure Christ consciousness. It was as if a wave in the ocean, after experiencing for a time the sensation of being separate, remembered that it had always been, and always will be, part of the ocean itself. This metaphor of the wave and ocean perfectly captures what was happening energetically. Jesus wasn't going somewhere new. He was returning to his natural state of unified awareness. The ascension was a conscious reintegration with the infinite field of divine intelligence, not a journey to a distant destination. What does this mean for our understanding of our own spiritual journey? It reveals that the language of ascending to heaven, found throughout Scripture, is actually a powerful metaphor for the soul's elevation, its awakening to its true divine nature. When we expand our consciousness beyond the limitations of ego, fear, and awaisul, separation, we literally rise to more subtle frequencies of existence. This elevation isn't something that happens only after physical death. It's available to us in each moment through the choices we make. Every time we choose love over fear, we ascend. Every time we practice forgiveness, instead of harboring resentment, we elevate our vibrational signature. Every time we recognize the divine in others, instead of judging their human limitations, we align with higher dimensional realities. The Odu veil between worlds isn't made of physical substance, but of perception itself. As we refine our consciousness through spiritual practice, meditation, and aligned action, we begin to perceive realities that were previously invisible to us, dimensions that have always been present, but which our dense consciousness could not grasp. This understanding of heaven as a state of consciousness rather than a location completely transforms our relationship with spirituality. We're no longer working to earn access to some distant paradise after death. We're awakening to the paradise that has always existed within and around us, accessible through the doorway of expanded awareness. If you've experienced moments where reality seemed to shift, where you suddenly perceived life with greater clarity, love, or understanding than before, share "I've touched heaven within" in the comments. The crucifixion, then, wasn't the event that opened the gates of heaven, as traditional theology suggests. It was a demonstration of how to maintain heightened consciousness even in the most challenging circumstances of human experience. What makes the crucifixion such a profound spiritual teaching goes far beyond the physical suffering portrayed in religious art. The deeper revelation that Cayce accessed is that Jesus was demonstrating something revolutionary about consciousness itself, that even in the most extreme circumstances, the awakened spirit remains undisturbed, centered in perfect peace. This wasn't a demonstration of superhuman endurance, but a revelation about the true nature of consciousness when it recognizes itself as spirit rather than identifying solely with the body. Think of how this transforms our understanding of our own challenges. What appears as suffering from the outside perspective might actually be a profound opportunity for spiritual alchemy from the inside. Jesus showed that it's possible to maintain a heightened state of consciousness even when the physical body is experiencing its greatest challenge. This is the ultimate freedom, to know that external circumstances need not determine our internal state of being. The insight journey this opens up for each of us is recognizing that our essential nature remains untouched even in the midst of life's greatest storms. Behind the appearances of pain, loss, or limitation, there exists a dimension of our being that remains in perfect peace, always connected to source consciousness. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "My peace I give unto you, not as the world gives, give I unto you." Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what true ascension actually means. Contrary to popular imagery of rising up into clouds, Cayce reveals that ascension is something far more integrated and whole. The true meaning of ascension is the process of consciously reconnecting all levels of our being, from the densest to the most subtle, from the physical to the spiritual. It is the sacred marriage between the earthly personality and the divine essence. This understanding transforms ascension from a future event that happens after death to an ongoing process available in each moment of our lives. Every time we bring more consciousness to our emotions, thoughts, and actions, we are ascending. Every time we integrate shadow aspects of ourselves, we are ascending. Every time we recognize the divine in the ordinary moments of life, we are ascending. Jesus wasn't demonstrating a one-time miracle, but revealing the pathway of conscious evolution available to each of us. He wasn't the exception to humanity, but the blueprint for humanity's potential. The crucifixion and ascension weren't about escaping the physical realm, but about fully integrating all dimensions of existence, bringing heaven to earth rather than leaving earth for heaven. Perhaps one of the most profound mindset shifts Cayce's readings reveal is that the crucifixion wasn't a singular historical event that happened to one special person under unique circumstances. For 2,000 years, humanity has viewed the crucifixion as isolated in time and space. We've placed Jesus on such a high pedestal that we've completely separated his experience from our own journey. But what if the crucifixion wasn't just his, but all of ours? What if every soul incarnated on this planet is experiencing their own version of the crucifixion every day? Not in terms of unnecessary suffering or victimization, but in the alchemical process of uniting spirit and matter, heaven and earth, divinity and humanity within our own being. If you've ever felt that your life challenges aren't just random hardships, but meaningful opportunities for spiritual growth, write, "My challenges are my crucible" in the comments. This perspective transforms our relationship with difficulty itself. Rather than asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we begin to inquire, "What is this experience awakening within me?" Our personal cross represents the intersection where our two natures meet, our limitless spiritual essence and our temporary human experience. Human life at its core represents this profound intersection, a constant attempt to reconcile our limitless spiritual nature with the limitations of physical experience. Think about the spiritual tension we navigate daily. We want to express unconditional love, but find ourselves reacting with fear. We desire inner peace, but our minds continually create turmoil. We long for unity, but experience separation. This dynamic interplay between who we essentially are and what we temporarily manifest is our own daily crucifixion. The breakthrough insight from Cayce's readings is that this tension isn't a punishment or a cosmic mistake. It's the precise environment designed for our souls to evolve. Just as a butterfly needs the resistance of the cocoon to develop the strength to fly, our consciousness requires the resistance of material density to develop the spiritual muscles necessary for higher awareness. What we experience as challenges, limitations, and suffering are actually the resistance training our souls need for awakening. The body, emotions, and material world aren't obstacles to our spiritual journey. They're the essential components of it. Without this contrast between our infinite nature and finite experience, we couldn't know ourselves as both human and divine. Cayce explains that every significant challenge we face, every moment we're called to transcend our limited patterns, every situation that forces us to choose between ego and spirit is a crucifixion point in our lives. These are the moments when we can choose to remain identified with the density of personality or take the leap into the freedom of expanded consciousness. These decision points happen hundreds of times throughout our lives, often in seemingly mundane moments. When someone criticizes us and we choose forgiveness over resentment, that's a crucifixion point. When we experience loss and choose to open our hearts wider rather than close down, that's a crucifixion point. When we face our deepest fears instead of running from them, that's a crucifixion point. But here's the most powerful part of this revelation. Just as Jesus transformed the cross into a portal of transcendence, we too have this power. Each time we choose to be reborn from pain rather than drown in it, we are resurrected. Each time we transmute a wound into wisdom, we are ascending. Each time we transform darkness into light through awareness, we are completing our own sacred crucifixion. This understanding completely reframes how we view the spiritual journey itself. Jesus wasn't crucified alone, so we could simply watch from afar and thank him for the favor. He was crucified first to show us the way, to map the territory, to prove that it is possible. He was the pioneer who blazed the trail, but each of us must walk it on our own 2 feet. We cannot outsource our transformation. We cannot delegate our awakening. We cannot have someone else do the inner work for us. The crucifixion revealed through Cayce's readings isn't about vicarious salvation, but about direct participation in the same process of spiritual alchemy that Jesus demonstrated. If you've recognized patterns in your life where challenges led to profound growth, moments where what seemed like your greatest difficulty became your greatest teacher, write, "My difficulties have transformed me," in the comments. When we truly grasp this perspective, it changes our entire relationship with suffering. Our challenges are no longer senseless burdens to be endured, but precise catalysts for awakening. Every difficulty contains within it the exact frequency needed to call forth our next level of consciousness. This revelation from Cayce's readings transforms Jesus from a distant figure of worship into a spiritual elder brother, showing us our own potential. He wasn't crucified to create spiritual spectators, but to inspire fellow travelers. He didn't suffer on the cross so we could passively benefit from his pain. He demonstrated the pathway of transformation so we could actively engage with our own. Think of how this shifts our spiritual mindset. Rather than positioning Jesus as the exceptional being who did something we could never do, we recognize him as the way shower who revealed what all humanity is evolving toward. We are all walking toward the same destination. Jesus achieved the complete realization of our Christ nature. The difference is that he has already arrived, has already completed the journey, has already proven it is possible. And now, through his presence in humanity's energetic field, he assists us, inspires us, and reminds us that there has never been a true separation between the human and the divine. This understanding doesn't diminish Jesus. It fulfills his actual mission, which was never to create followers, but to awaken fellow divine beings. When we embrace this perspective, our relationship with suffering undergoes a profound transformation. Our suffering is not punishment nor chance, but an opportunity for transmutation. Our crises are not failures, but points of spiritual initiation. When life pushes us against the wall, it is not destroying us. It is offering us the chance to transcend the walls we ourselves have built around our consciousness. The journey of awakening isn't about avoiding difficulty, but about developing the spiritual capacity to transform every experience, no matter how challenging, into greater awareness, love, and freedom. This alchemical process is the true meaning of the crucifixion that Cayce's readings reveal. Not a one-time historical event, but an ongoing invitation to conscious transformation available to each of us in every moment. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining the seventh great lie that has shaped our understanding of the crucifixion, the belief that the end was on the cross. The traditional narrative would have us believe that Jesus' story culminated on Calvary, that the crucifixion was the final climax of his earthly journey. After that, we're told of the resurrection, a few appearances to the disciples, and then the final ascension, after which Jesus simply disappeared from the scene, waiting in some distant heaven until a hypothetical future return. But this version of the story is deeply incomplete according to Cayce's revelations. What if the crucifixion wasn't an ending at all, but a beginning? What if, rather than departing from Earth's sphere, Jesus actually expanded his presence within it? What if the transformation he underwent didn't remove him from humanity's journey, but enabled him to participate in it more fully than was possible through a single physical body? The hidden truth that emerges is revolutionary. Jesus did not die on Calvary. More than that, he never left Earth in the sense we've been taught. What happened was a fundamental transformation in the way he interacts with humanity and the planet. He went from a localized physical presence to an omnipresent energetic presence. If you've ever felt an inexplicable guidance, a sudden knowing, or a profound sense of being supported by something greater than yourself, write, "I've felt the invisible presence," in the comments. The true story wasn't death on the cross. It was the birth of a new era in planetary consciousness, the moment when the Christ frequency became permanently anchored into Earth's energy grid. Cayce's readings reveal something extraordinary about what truly happened after the crucifixion. Rather than departing from Earth's domain, as traditional teachings suggest, Jesus underwent a profound expansion of presence. Before this transformation, he was limited by the constraints of a single physical body that could only be in one place at a time, interact with a limited number of people, and affect a geographic region. After the crucifixion and what we call the resurrection, this changed dramatically. Jesus transformed from an individual physical presence to a universal energetic frequency accessible throughout Earth's consciousness grid. This wasn't a departure, but an expansion, not an absence, but a more pervasive presence. Before that moment in history, the Christ frequency had occasionally visited the planet through various avatars, enlightened masters, and moments of divine inspiration. But after the crucifixion, something unprecedented happened. This frequency became a permanent part of the world's vibrational field, available to any heart open enough to receive it. This insight completely transforms how we understand spiritual presence. Jesus didn't abandon humanity to sit on some distant celestial throne. His consciousness expanded to become an integral part of Earth's spiritual ecosystem, like oxygen in the atmosphere, present everywhere, sustaining spiritual life, yet invisible to physical eyes. Think about the profound shift this represents in our understanding of divine connection. What we've been taught as a story about someone dying, disappearing, and promising to return someday is actually a story about someone transcending physical limitations to become more intimately present with all of humanity than was possible through a single body. This omnipresent Christ consciousness isn't passive or distant. It's active, dynamic, constantly working through the cracks of light that appear in every human heart willing to open. It works through mysterious synchronicities, sudden insights, transformative encounters, moments of inexplicable grace, and that quiet inner knowing that arrives precisely when we need guidance most. Every time someone anywhere in the world experiences genuine, unconditional love, has a profound spiritual insight, or awakens to a transcendent truth, the presence of Christ is there, not as an external entity granting favors, but as the very frequency of awakened consciousness reverberating through another human being. This breakthrough understanding reveals that Calvary was not the end of a story, but the beginning of a new possibility for all humanity. It was the moment when the door to ascension was definitively opened, when the path to Christ consciousness was indelibly mapped in the collective psyche. Since then, every human being carries within them the potential to follow the same steps, to complete the same journey, to achieve the same transformation. The journey isn't about worshiping Jesus as an unattainable ideal, but recognizing him as the blueprint for our own evolution. The awakening process isn't about believing the right things, but about embodying the Christ consciousness that already exists within us as potential. It's not about waiting for some future event, but participating in the ongoing unfoldment of divine awareness in the present moment. If something in this understanding resonates with your own inner knowing, if you've sensed there's a deeper truth beyond the traditional narratives, write "The Christ Within is Awakening" in the comments. Now, as we explore the fundamental truth of what really happened to Jesus during those pivotal hours, we need to examine how his conscious mastery over matter provides the ultimate key to understanding the entire crucifixion mystery. If you've stayed with me until this point, I want to thank you from the heart. What we've explored together isn't just information, it's a doorway to transformation. These revelations about the crucifixion that Edgar Cayce accessed aren't meant to simply change what you know. They're meant to change how you experience your own spiritual journey. The truth is, these ancient understandings aren't revealed to everyone. They find their way to those souls who are ready to receive them, those who have been quietly questioning the traditional narratives and sensing there was something deeper beneath the surface. If that's you, then perhaps it wasn't coincidence that brought you to this video today, but a deeper synchronicity guiding you toward remembering who you truly are. If this message has touched something within you, if you sense these truths resonating with your own inner knowing, I'd love for you to write "I was meant to hear this today" in the comments below. Your voice adds to the field of awakening consciousness we're collectively building. When you subscribe to this channel, you're not just following content, you're joining a community of souls on the path of awakening, committed to rediscovering the deeper spiritual truths that have been obscured through time. Each video we create is designed to be another piece of the cosmic puzzle, helping you reconnect with your divine essence. If this journey of exploration has brought value to your life today, a simple like helps these revelations reach others who are also searching for deeper understanding. There's a video right here that explores how these same principles of Christ consciousness apply to your everyday challenges and awakening. Click and continue with me there as we translate these cosmic truths into practical wisdom for your personal journey of transformation.